Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Swing Away. Like always, we've got our girl McKenzie Long, but we've got a very special guest today. Former Michigan State head coach and assistant athletic director at Michigan State, Coach Jacquie Joseph. We're so excited to have you. We're going to talk all things softball.
Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Well, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your softball journey, how you got here, just a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, my journey starts in Flint, Michigan.
Okay.
Played 3 sports. In those days, we didn't really get recruited. You know, I went to Central Michigan and walked on. Got cut my freshman year. That was a great awakening for me to figure out what I wanted, and so I tried back out the next year and made it, and extremely fortunate. Played for Hall of Fame coach, 4 championships there, and then when I graduated, my coach asked me to stay on as her assistant, and in those days we were graduate assistants. So then I got my master's degree, I got my MBA there, and then when I got done, a good friend of mine had just gotten a head job at Indiana and asked me to be her assistant. So I went to Indiana for 1 year and was an assistant there. And the Bowling Green job, Bowling Green State University in Ohio, Mac School opened. I went there, I was there 5 years, and got super fortunate again the year that we won a championship, the Michigan State job opened, and I've been at Michigan State for 29 years.
I went to Central, so I gotta say, fire up chips.
Fire up chips.
But was there always sort of that in your mind, like, I want to be a coach? Did you always think that was something?
No, there was never that. Never, no. It wasn't a thing then.
Right.
You know, you really, I wanted to work on Wall Street because in those days, that's where, you know, all the action and the money was. And I thought, you know, sure, I'll go do that. And I really just kind of fell in it. When I was at GA, it's a perfect opportunity to test it out, see how you do. And I felt like it went well. I felt like the players, you know, were receptive. I felt like I was making a difference. I felt I was effective. All of the things that I hadn't felt the last couple of years, I felt originally, and that's what led me into it. And I just sort of stayed into it, and you know, and just, you know, worked hard, and felt very fortunate that my career worked out the way it worked out. I mean, 34 years is enough. Yep. You know, it was enough of a run, and then I'm extremely blessed. Everyone knows how fortunate I am that I have an opportunity to stay on at Michigan State and you know, serve, you know, a place that I've been for so long in a new role. That's very unusual, and really grateful for that opportunity.
You guys have a little special relationship.
Yes, we do.
You coach Kenzie.
Yep.
Kenzie, why don't you tell us a little bit about the experience?
Yeah, you know, playing for Coach Jay was, second to none. Like, it was the best experience I have ever had, and which actually led me to why I wanted to coach. You know, when you're in it and it's an everyday routine, everyday thing, you don't realize how blessed you are until you're out of it and until you're a coach. And now that I'm a coach, I sit there and I think to myself, holy smokes, how blessed was I to be led by a Hall of Fame coach. You know, the kids that I get the opportunity to impact really is a direct impact from Coach Jay.
Learn from the best.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Well, before we get started about all this softball talk, are there any funny stories that you guys remember from your days at Michigan State together? Anything coming to mind?
Yeah, you know, there's a lot. There's a lot of. We were laughing all the time. I'm not gonna lie. There was just a lot of different opportunities. There was never a practice we didn't laugh. There was never a situation that we didn't laugh. But I think one that stood out to me was we were playing at Georgia State, and you know, Coach Jay is. If you know Coach Jay, she likes to tell you like it is, which is good. I like that.
Absolutely.
And so she just came up to me and was like, "You're batting ninth, and you know, it's because you're sucking. You're sucking." And I'm like,
Here's
okay,
how it is.
You know, and I took it like it is, and it was actually funny because the next game I went on and hit a home run, and I'm like, yeah, as I'm rounding third, I'm like, do I really suck? And so it's like,
you're like, take that.
You know,
no, she doesn't.
but it's, you know, but every situation we had together, we were always laughing some way, some form.
Yeah. Do you have any stories about Kenzie?
Well, I mean, I just want to go back to that a little bit. Like, I really, really enjoyed the players, and I think it's a hilarious game.
Oh,
I mean,
100%.
Rarely do you get through a practice or a game where someone doesn't do something that's just belly roll laughing.
Yeah.
And, you know, whether they trip over a base or I trip and fall coaching, which has happened where I'm so excited. I'm you know, sending a runner and then I all of a sudden I'm in a backflip circle because I tripped over something and, you know, it's supposed to be that way. And Puppy was just a lot of fun, just a lot of fun. And so I can't recall anything that I want to talk about right now.
Okay.
But Puppy? We had a good time. Yeah, Puppy was, yeah, we called her Puppy. You don't call her Puppy?
No. Where did this nickname come from?
She came with it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't.
Yeah.
High school?
I thought it was because she had big feet, but turns out she really doesn't.
Turns out
she didn't have big feet.
Well, you know what's funny is when I was getting recruited by Coach Jay, like my letters were sent as like Puppy Long, and I was like, do you think she knows my real name? and it was like the longest time I don't think she knew what my real name was.
Probably didn't.
It's okay. I mean, Puppy works.
Yeah, it was.
It was what they called her. Like when you recruit, you try to pick out things that you can create a bond with the player.
Okay. Yep.
So nicknames, like when you go watch them and you listen to what their teammates are calling them, and then if you refer to them as that as the coach, you can bridge a gap that maybe another coach, you know, like. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
So I was always, you know, on their questionnaires and stuff, I always had nickname as part of it because sometimes it was an affinity with the player. And so she was, I never heard anybody call her McKenzie or Kenzie until much later. Yeah, she was always Puppy.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get more into recruiting a little bit later on in the show, but I want to start off with your younger years of playing softball. I know, you know, travel ball comes into play pretty early these days. How important is it to get started early on?
Well, there's a lot of controversy about that.
Right.
I am a firm believer in not specializing until you're like 13, 14.
Right.
At the, you know, I feel like a broad range of experiences and activities are healthy for young people. I don't think young people have enough information to get that zoned in yet, and I find that when, you know, now are there outliers where a kid only played this one thing and then they didn't burn out? Sure, there's the outliers. But in a general sense, I like kids to have a broad range of activities as they come up, and then certainly by the time they're 13, 14, they're going to have to choose what to do in the summer. But even so, the players that play softball in the summer, I like them to play high school sports.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the high school experience is critical for their development socially and for their mental health and their well-being. So even though they might be super spectacularly gifted as a softball player in the summer, I still want them to play high school ball and play high school other sports if they can figure it out in their schedule and stuff. I think it's more of a mental health thing than anything else. There's mountains of studies that show specialization too early is detrimental to a child. That's a fact, okay? Like I said, are there some outliers? Of course there are. But generally, I'd like to see them not specialize too soon, just because I don't think they know enough about I need kids to have an avenue to change their mind.
Right.
Because the last thing you want is a kid forced into something because they just happen to be gifted.
Right.
But if they don't want it here or here, they shouldn't do it later.
Yeah, absolutely. When did you start playing travel ball?
You know, growing up in California, it is a little bit different.
Right.
But I agree. I think I started playing, you know, 8, 9, 10, to be honest. But I also played different sports too. I played hockey, I played volleyball and basketball. You know, going off what Coach Jay said, I think what I'm noticing, especially at the turning 2 level, at the organizational level, is my younger players that have the opportunity to play different sports tend to love softball more because they're making the decision to play softball. When they're just softball all the time, they don't know what they don't know. They don't know that they love softball more or if they don't love softball more. So I agree with the standpoint of, you know, playing different sports to just find the true love of the game versus just playing just to play.
Right, and like you mentioned earlier, it gives you an opportunity to pick, you know, maybe I do like playing volleyball more, maybe I do like playing hockey more, you know?
And at the younger level, there's a lot of opportunity to play different sports because, you know, like they work around each other in the sense of like, you get out of school at like 3, you can, do your softball practice or whatever that looks like, and then you go to your basketball game or whatever, and so there is the opportunity to be good. I mean, we have great 11U, 12U teams,
absolutely,
but they're also playing basketball on the weekends off or playing volleyball on the weekends off.
And going on field trips and doing all of these other things that kids should feel free to
be doing.
Right. Yep. That's something else I wanted to talk about, are travel ball showcase tournaments. I played travel ball for a while, and these always freaked me out because I knew there were recruiters there. I knew that this was kind of my opportunity, So I want to know, what is something that you look for on how a kid acts maybe outside of the dugout at a showcase tournament?
I think you're pretty much evaluating all of it. Yep. And I think that what you experience, the anxiety of that, is super important because it's a hurdle. Yep. Because some kids will say that same thing about going to a camp. Yeah, they'll say, oh my gosh, I went to this camp, I was so nervous because I knew, the coaches were watching me. Yep. So you go once and you work through that, and you go again and you work through that, and you go again and you work through that. And certainly by the time you've done it 3 or 4 times, especially if you've had some help to process your anxiety, it's less anxious because then it just becomes, oh, this is just what I do. Right. And yes, these people will be over here, and you're learning to focus on things. So that's not a bad thing. As coaches, when we go out and evaluate a player, we're literally evaluating them from start to finish as much as we can. It's all information. So getting out of the car, who carries the kid's bag?
Yep,
I'm sure you've talked about that. How a player treats their teammates in the dugout, how a player reacts when they come out of the game. Because in showcases, a lot of times, it's all scripted. Right. You're going to play 3, you're going to play 3, you're going to play 3, and whatever. Yep. So you're looking for all those little nuanced things that you value as a coach, and that you think might be predictors of how successful they will be in your team. Right. When we go recruiting out-of-state players, it's far. So when I recruited Puppy from California, I'm looking for things that tell me the kid can survive on her own, all this distance from home. And it's not for everybody, right? And so you're trying to find players who fit, that will stay, that will graduate, that, the last thing you want is to spend all this time and money on a player and then lose them. You don't want to lose them.
Do you remember when she came out to?
Yeah, I was actually going to talk a little bit about that. I think going off that too, as a player, my advice would be, and I try to instill this with my players right now, is like, don't play don't play a showcase tournament different than you would play a normal game. Because when you go to college, it's day after day after day after day. So if you're only performing when a coach is there, you're not getting used to performing on the Monday, Tuesday in the middle of January when it's snowing. Right. And that, those days matter more than to perform on the day that coach is there. So I remember one of the big games that I actually remember when Coach Day was there, and I don't even know if she'll remember if she was there. We were in Colorado, and it's a big showcase tournament, right? That's what but at the same time, you're trying to win. Yeah. And so it was the first year of the Power Pool tournament, and we were going to go on and try to make it to the championship in the Power Pool. And we were playing like a Texas Bombers team. And this is I totally remember this because it was one of those games where Lena Lovelace, my travel ball coach, said, I was not playing very well, and I got on off a swinging bunt that was ridiculous. It was, lucky. And I just remember, I stole second, and then I got to third somehow, and I remember the suicide squeeze getting home. And I remember, that's all that Coach Day needed to solidify, okay, I want her. And it had nothing to do with the playing. It had everything to do with, I was going to win that game. Yep. We were going to win that game. I don't care how. I don't care what I needed to do. Yeah. And so that's kind of what, I didn't do anything spectacular. I didn't hit a home run. I didn't rob a home run. I didn't make great plays at shortstop. I mean, I made my routine plays, but it was the little things that I did that I remember, I'm going to win. We're going to win. That's what they want to see, is they want to see winners. Right. They want to see competitive players that are willing to do whatever they can to help the team win. Because
Right.
at the end of the day, that's what they need to do in college.
And when you go to these tournaments, I mean, you know these kids are talented, you know? You've seen the numbers, you've seen all of that kind of stuff, but it's more of like the personality traits that you're looking for, right?
Yeah, for sure. The hustle, the body
Yeah.
language.
Yep.
You know, just looking for the character traits that are gonna show through, and how you act when you don't get a hit.
Right.
You know, it's easy to win. It's easy to be the hero. I want to know what you're going to do to lift the teammate up. When you strike out, are you going to turn to that teammate and give her the information she needs to go to bat?
Right.
Or are you going to sulk? Are you going to put your head down and be a pain in the
Feel
butt?
sorry for yourself.
Right. Or are you going to lift everybody up? So, you know, the best players play well. Of course, they're great players, but they also bring others with them.
Right.
And it is a team sport, and you have to be a good teammate. You have to be a good person.
Right.
It's a long year,
Yeah.
you know, and should be a long 4 years where relationships matter, because there'll be days when you're the star and there'll be days when you cost the team the game.
Right.
You know,
It's
and
just how it is.
And you want people to take care of each other.
If there was one thing that either of you could sort of say to focus on for these girls that are looking to get recruited, is there any like advice that you have? Any one specific thing that they should focus on?
I think you just have to play hard.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you love it, then play hard. And because when you don't love it and you're just out there because your dad dragged you there, or your mom dragged you there, or you're afraid you're letting grandpa down, that's not a reason to play. But when you love it, then enthusiasm, be enthusiastic, be positive, hustle, give great effort. Just talk all the time to the kids about it doesn't take any talent to give great effort. Just play hard. Good things will happen.
Yep.
And for me, I think 100%, what I've noticed, and something that I really encourage players to work through, is the want to play because they love the game, and it comes with the scholarship, not the want to play the game for the scholarship.
Right.
And I think, there's that, you can tell the players that are out there that are like, they love it. Like, they want to do anything and everything. They want to see me 24/7, and I'm like, hey, slow down,
Take a breather.
Yeah, exactly. Versus the kids that are just playing because, they've seen their friends and they see the commitment walls that we have, and it's like, oh, that's cool, I could do that too. It's a long 4 years, and so if you don't love the game, at the end of the day, it's hard, but it is so much fun if you do love it. And so I agree with that. I think playing because you love it, not because there's, the love is going to open opportunities and open doors versus just playing because, like Coach said, it's your parents are telling you to, or you want that scholarship.
And you both had mentioned how long of a season it is, how long of a year it is. How important is it to have that balance between softball and a personal life at this age?
It's up to each person. If you want balance, play a different division.
Yeah, there you go.
And every division has its own requirements, and there are some Division II schools that practice more than some Division I's. So that's something for you to have on your list of criteria, is how many hours, how much of my life. I don't believe in balance. So I think it's a fake thing that we made up about, I am 100% doing what I'm doing when I'm doing it. There's no balance
That's true.
there.
Yeah, very valid point.
Okay, and then when I am not doing that, I'm doing this, and I'm doing it 100%.
Yep.
So when I'm not doing anything, I do nothing like it's my job.
There you go.
But there's no balance in that.
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Because
What are
you're
you
doing
doing?
nothing for
I'm doing
100%.
nothing.
Yep.
What are you supposed to be doing? Nothing.
I'm 100% doing
I don't.
nothing.
I mean, but if I'm supposed to be balanced,
Right.
then I'm nowhere.
Then you're 50%
ever.
here, 50% there.
No, I'm
Yeah.
here, and this is it, and that's that. So if you, like Pup said, if your entire being is a sport, that's not for me to decide. Go for
Right.
it.
Yeah.
There's a division and a school and a place for you to do that. If your life is more of, I want an internship, I want to have a job, I want to put my social life first, whatever that is, fine.
Yeah.
There's places for that too. The problem we get into is that we spend way too much time only talking about Power 5 or Division I.
Right.
And so we force the kids into something because it's almost like, well, if I don't play Division I, then I'm less of a player. No.
Right.
No, it doesn't mean that. Okay? So we're couching the conversation too much about what the decision means for other people instead of what it means for the kid. So we have some club coaches that it's a notch on their belt if I have X number of people who play Division I. That should not be the standard,
No.
dude. The standard should be, how many players do you have happily playing and meeting their goals?
Yep.
Not
Happily.
your goals, their goals. Same thing with the parents. It's not their journey, it's their journey. And if she'd rather fit in Division III or Ivies or NAIA or JC or PAR, it's up to her. It's her journey.
Right. What do you?
Yeah, I have a younger sister.
Okay.
And she plays Division II ball.
Okay.
And so I play Power 5, she played Division II, and she got put in a pocket very similar to what Coach Jay is saying, is like, you know, you should be, you know, your sister did this, you should do this. And if you get the opportunity to spend time with me and spend time with her, and she says it too, is I love softball. I like breathed it, I watched it, I wanted to know everything about it. And she loved it, but she loved it while also being able to hang out with her friends,
For sure.
being a teacher and things like that. So she's playing Division II at Lake Erie in Ohio, and it's the best fit for her.
Right.
And it's exactly what, like, so we're we're sisters, we're two very similar, but yet Power 5 was perfect for me. I lived, breathed, died softball.
Right.
And she lives, breathes, dies her friends and plays softball with that. And she
Right.
does a good job. She balances everything well, in the sense of she does have an internship and she does that stuff.
Right.
But she plays softball and competes at a high level, and when she's in it, she's in softball. But when she's with her third grade students, because she's teaching, she's in that too. And so I think knowing your personality and like encouraging, if we didn't encourage her to say, hey, no, you don't have to
That's
go Division
great,
I,
yeah.
go where you belong and where you're gonna play, then they start to lean into that as well. But I think what happens is parents and coaches, you know, and organizations want a certain thing, and that's not the case, you know, and I'm seeing it at my sister's level. Like that's a perfect fit for her. You know, there's 1,200 students at her school versus 55,000
Right.
at Michigan State, and yet, if you know our personalities, you'd be like, that's perfect.
Right. What are some other things that go into choosing the right school? You know, academics, what other things kind of play a role, do you think?
Well, Pubs probably heard me give this speech a million times, but I think that you have to find a fit in 4 areas.
Okay.
And when you can find a fit in 4 areas, all the same, you've got your place.
Okay.
Number 1, it has to be a fit academically. So if you were born to be an astronaut, then there's certain schools you have to want to. If you're just a solid B kid and you really don't want to study, okay, that's one thing. But it has to be a good fit academically, because that's the whole reason that we're doing this, is for an education.
Right.
Number 2, it has to be a fit socially. Some kids need a city, some kids need small rural, some kids need private religious, some kids need whatever. Social needs matter. You want to feel like you fit socially in that environment, and that's where the visit becomes so important. Is you're walking around and you're sizing things up, and you're like, yeah, I can see myself here, or whatever. Okay. The next thing is it has to be a good fit financially. Okay. And way too many people spend way too much time on what the school is going to offer them instead of what is left to pay. Okay?
Yep.
The scholarship is not the factor. The factor is what's left to play per your family dynamic. So if you're a family and you have constraints because maybe you have 4 or 5 kids and you're going to commit X amount of dollars to each player, you got to know that so you can figure out your budget and you can know then what you have left to do. There's lots of financial help that's not an athletic scholarship. So, but it has to be a good fit financially. You don't want to feel like you're bankrupting your family. I've had many conversations with families that are like, yeah, but she's going to hit 300 and she'll get more money later. Oh, no. Because
Will
if
she?
that child feels like she's bankrupting the family,
Right.
if she doesn't hit 300, guess what? She's not hitting 300.
Right.
It's too much pressure, okay? And then lastly is the athletic fit. If your whole life you've pitched and you want to pitch, okay, and you throw it 58, okay, there's some place for you to go, but it's not over here,
Right.
okay? Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. If you want to pitch, go pitch. If you want to catch, go catch. You have to understand the athletic role. If I go over here, I'm going to be a walk-on, nothing wrong with that. I'm probably going to sit 2 years, and if you're comfortable with that, no problem.
Go for it.
But in those 4 areas, academic fit, social fit, financial fit, and then finally the athletic fit, including coaches. You know, like watch the coach, watch a practice if you can. Be around them as much as you can. And if you can get a win in those 4 areas, chances are it's going to be a really great thing. Problem is, we're talking about 16 and 17-year-old girls
It's tough.
or people
Yeah.
who have no idea. And that's where the parents have to come in and ask the right questions of the child. When the child says, hey, I got a call from Michigan State and I live in California or whatever, that's where the parent needs to say, okay, have you ever done a load of laundry?
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever spent a night away from home? I mean, there's kids that have never had a sleepover, but they think they're going to pack their bags and go to
Across the country?
12 states away to go play softball. I don't know. You know, that's where the parent can be very helpful and the club coach can be invaluable of, hey, you know, you want to play here, but do you know they practice minimum 20 hours a week? And you don't like it when we change practice on a Saturday.
Yeah.
So are you sure? Because when you go there, practice changes, that's it. You drop everything and you go do that. And so you can mirror back the traits of that player to help them understand what their life is going to look like if they choose University A or College B or whatever. So there's a place for everybody. I'll go to my grave saying that. Especially if we don't interfere with the process by layering our wants and our needs as parents and club people over the kids.
Right.
And it's hard.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah.
What was it for you about Michigan State that you were like, this is it?
You know, when you're an out-of-stater at Michigan State and you walk on Michigan State campus, it's so hard to not fall in love. Like, it really is. And I got the opportunity to visit different schools, but there was that, like, you know, blue collar work ethic. You know, I'm gonna grind it out. I'm gonna work hard for my opportunity. And I played under a coach that had a very similar personality to Coach Jay. So I knew, I was like, that's what I like. Like, I don't want to question, I don't want to know and wonder what the coach is thinking. Like, just tell me like it is. Like, if I didn't do it right, just tell me that. And so when I got the opportunity to come on the visit and see the beautiful campus, but also watch the player dynamics, and watch how Coach Jay coached, I was like, yeah, I can live in that. I can thrive in that situation. And so that was kind of my separator for me.
And now I want to talk about how important is it, the development before you get to college? I mean, there's so many aspects that we've already talked about, you know. Your personal life, do you know how to do a load of laundry? And then there's softball, the whole reason that you're going. So how important is it to really prepare yourself before you take that next step?
I think for me, you know, that's what I do. Like, that's my sole job right now, is to develop the kids before they go on and play. And that's really why I haven't dug into the college game yet, that's why I love where I'm at, is because when they go to college, like my favorite saying is, I don't want them to just get to college, I want them to thrive in college. And so everything I do right now is to help them prepare for that. And that is having those tough conversations like, hey, this is your personality. That personality doesn't fit this school. If you can go, and you're welcome, but you know, I've gotten the opportunity to talk to coaches. Now, the biggest thing on the athletic development side is, you know, the transfer portal is real, and that's just going to be something that is real. It is very live and active in our sport. And so when you have, as a coach, when you have the opportunity to get a player as a, you know, senior in high school or a sophomore in the transfer portal, you know, they're proven, they've done it, they've been there. So it's really important for my travel ball kids and my high school kids to understand that, you know, they need to start developing sooner, because now they're going up against not just recruiting the entire nation, but the transfer portal.
Yeah, no, I think that when you have a club like Turn 2 that has a person in charge of the player development, like Puppy, who played in college, and who literally knows all of the divisions and all of the requirements at each division and what their lives are. It's an invaluable resource for the club
100%.
because she can speak to it having known it for a fact that this is what your life's going to be like if you go here. This is what your life's going to be like when you go there. That's an invaluable resource that they have. The people that struggle are sometimes the ones that think they know because they've watched it on TV. You know, that, I like those uniforms. You know, I like those uniforms, so I'm going to go there. You know, I'm like, yeah.
Florida always got the bow in their hair.
Yeah,
That's
oh yeah, that's
cute.
a cute flower. I think I'll go play at Florida. No,
Not
you know,
smart.
not, that's what you see on TV for that 2 hours. That's not their life. And so it's an invaluable resource that that puppy knows how to, you know, how to communicate to the players and really help them, not in a crush your dreams way, but in a way that she can say, you know, look, you really don't enjoy practicing. You know, you want to play more, so let's look at these schools, or let's, you know, and or the kid can make a difference. Like, you know, my own daughter used to say, oh, I'm going to come play for you when she was little. I'm like, Emma, let's be honest. You don't work that hard. You know, you have to be willing to have those tough conversations with a kid, even if it's your own kid who you adore and love. It's fine. But if you're going to choose that, then, you know, but I was big on, you know, we're not going to teach quitting. I think that quitting is a skill, and once you do it, you get good at it. And I'm not saying that doesn't mean you don't make a change. I just think there's an appropriate time and window for change, and I don't believe we let people quit mid go.
Oh,
so
sure.
And it's age appropriate, right? So when you're 10, maybe it's 3 months of piano lessons, and then you get the change, right? But when you're 18, 19, and you've chosen a school, you got to give it at least a year. You know, there's no going home at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you don't
You know, no,
Yeah.
you got to finish the year, because most people, if they had an opportunity to quit at Thanksgiving, they would have. Because the fun stuff hasn't happened yet.
Right. It's tough, I'm sure.
And the fun stuff hasn't happened yet. We get to the season, get through a season, and then we'll reevaluate at the end of the season. That's an appropriate window, you know, so.
And I think going off of like the love piece is like, for me, like I love my kids that I get to coach. And I love them so much that I'm hoping that they're fishing in the right pond. You know, I don't want them to miss out on opportunities at the schools that would be perfect for them and thrive. And it's schools. It's not a school. Like, I'm not a school base.
Right.
It's schools. Versus because we're fighting and choosing other schools. Now, if you want to dream big, dream big. I'm good with that. But we have a commitment wall at Turning 2, and there's, you know, like last year we had 52 kids go to school in the 2022 class, and that's from junior college all the way up to Power 5.
Right.
And for me, I love that visual, because I'm like, go do your thing. Anywhere it is, go do your thing. And when you go there, remember 2 things. You're representing your family, and you're representing yourself, and you're representing our organization, you're representing that school. So whatever you do, don't walk away without giving it a try, and giving it a go, and giving your best effort as a teammate and as a person first.
And like you both have mentioned, it's tough. It is tough. So I know last week we talked a little bit about adversity, and I kind of want to hear your thoughts about, you know, it's a big jump to go from high school to college softball. What is your sort of mindset on adversity and how to work through that?
Well, it's supposed to be hard. I mean, we have a situation right now where if it's hard, I'm not prepared, you know, no, you're fine. It's just that we delay this process of hard and facing adversity now for so long. We have got to do a better job, I think, as parents, of letting children fail way more and way more often when they're at that 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 age group. And because learning to battle through adversity as an 18, 19-year-old is a tough time to learn through it. But the more people that are like less silver spoonish, if you will, I don't want them, because they're going to come to, and because of the campus, right? I'm sure that there are some campuses that are, I don't know, easier to navigate, let's say, but that fit, back to that campus size and that fit, we need more failure, we need more adversity at the lowest levels. We don't need less of it. And the problem that we're having right now is because the parents are into this thing financially so much that then they start hitting the club people in the head when their little Susie or Janie isn't performing to what they think they paid for. They have got to understand that the money you're spending on club has got nothing to do with college. It's for her experience then.
Yeah.
And if the child doesn't play after high school, okay, that doesn't mean that all this money was wasted.
It's memories,
It's,
I feel like,
hey,
you know?
it's so many great things. It's growth, it's whatever.
Yep.
And that's part of the problem, is there isn't enough adversity, there isn't enough failure at the lower levels now, because everybody has a fit if their kid comes out of the game.
Yep. That's
I
exactly
mean, they
what
have
she was
a
saying.
first class fit. If Susie gives up a home run or Janie strikes out, I'm like, yes. Now I'm gonna go watch how she acts when she strikes out.
Yeah.
Well, and I think my thing about adversity is adversity does happen, but I think what people fail to also acknowledge in college is adversity is not like to Coach Jay's point, like striking out is the smallest bit of adversity.
Yes.
Like it's nothing compared to what you're actually gonna face. And I think what happens is we get nervous about what that adversity looks like. We don't realize, like for me, I'll give you an example of my college career. I played. I was a 4-year starter at Michigan State. If I told the kids my career, they would be like, there's no adversity in that. Yeah, I had almost a season or career-ending surgery that I had to fight through, and I had to change positions multiple times, and I had to change my swing and my approach and things like my role on the team. Like I went from the 3-batter to the 2-batter. I went from the RBI kid to the bunting kid, and so when you look on paper, you look at my career and you're like, oh, like she did it. She did a great job, and like oh, if I had that career, I would be good. And it's like, no, there's so much more to that. You know, there's so much more. Like adversity is not just the failure in the sport. It's the injuries. It's the teammate situation. It's the being away from family. It's
the 6 a.m.
Yes.
It was 3 feet of snow.
Yeah.
You know, it's the hey, we're gonna run laps because we tied a team we shouldn't have tied, and you're gonna run until you you know, can't run anymore, sort of thing, you know. And it's like, but that's what builds character.
Exactly.
Like I wouldn't be in this situation, I wouldn't be in this chair if I didn't get the opportunity to learn from Lena, which allowed me to want to choose Coach Jay, which allowed me to now be ready and prepared for what life has thrown at me now. And life has thrown a lot, and I'm steady. I'm ready to roll because of that.
Do either of you have any advice to sort of get through that freshman year adversity? I know that freshman year can't be easy.
Well, if we did a better job prior to that freshman year of getting out of the way of the process, excuse me, it would make it easier. But ultimately is not setting them up for some fantasy land.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. It's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. You're supposed to be so sore you can't even use the bathroom. Okay, you can't. Our favorite is the girls would always talk about how they couldn't even wash their hair because their arms were so sore they couldn't lift their arms.
You're like, yes.
Like, yes, that's right. So as long as you have that growth mindset and you embrace it, it's supposed to be hard. If it was easy, you picked the wrong place because you're not being challenged. Okay, so embracing it and doing it together with your teammates, and if you've done a good job prior to, it's all fun. It's all good.
And I 1,000% agree. Like that would be my biggest advice: is do it before. Learn how to fight for a position before. Learn how to fail before. Learn how to sit before. Learn how to accept your role before. You know, and when you can do that, then once you get to college, it's like, oh, I've done this before.
Right.
I've been there, I've done that. Yes, is there added stress? Yes, but I'm not adding the stress of being alone and trying to find a way to fight for a position.
Right.
It's like, you know, every year we had to fight for a spot. You know, like I played 4 years at shortstop, and not once did I enter thinking, oh, I'm going to be the shortstop again this year.
Right.
Like every year was a fight and a claw and a scratch to get that, and that's great. Like, if you do it now at the 15, 16, 17, 18, then you want that, because I always said, you know, if I lose my spot, then our team must be really, really good, because that means I'm on the bench and I'm good. So therefore, if the person playing in front of me, Coach J, trusts more than me, then she must be pretty good too, and we're all going to be better because of it.
Yep. And putting yourself in that mindset that, you know, the team before me, you know, you look for kids like that, right?
You do. They're very, very hard to find anymore. It's our whole society is more now me.
Right.
And that's hard to come to terms with. But there's still a way to build team. You can still be a great player. You can still be an individual. You can still have all the accolades, and also be a part of a community and a good team and be a good teammate. There's room for all of it, as long as we don't have a scarce mentality about it. It's only me.
Right.
So, you know, it's like, what do they say about a blooming flower doesn't compete with the one next to it or something? It's like, you're running your own journey.
Exactly.
You're running your own race.
Yep.
You know, I say all the time, comparison is the thief of joy. And just run your own race, do your own thing, and everybody goes together. And sometimes there's real growth in that adversity. What do they say? There's no growth in your comfort zone.
Absolutely, yeah. You don't grow until you.
That's
step outside your
100%
comfort
true.
Yep.
There's no growth in your comfort zone. You have to challenge yourself and get out of it.
Yep.
And so if you have an open mindset that way, you're going to be fine.
And talking about teams, I got a funny question for you guys. Okay, I always ask every time I get to do an interview like this, team bonding. What was your guys' go-to team bonding? Like the most fun experience you can remember that you had as a team?
Well, is Rainey's place for you, or
No.
Which
well,
one-
yes, that was
which
fun.
one- which one's
that
your
was
place?
fun, but my freshman year,
where'd we go?
we went to that. We went up north, and that's where we had to pitch the tent in the.
Oh, that was the best.
Oh, no.
Oh, that was the best.
So,
Oh God.
so
Yeah.
I'm a freshman.
Okay.
And we had like different groups. So we had like each group was like in charge of.
A tent.
Yes, and they were in charge of like some sort of like, you know, like, oh, this is the leadership group, this is the food group, this is the whatever group.
Yep.
And I got the like social group, right? And I get, you know,
Games and stuff.
like
Yep.
there's some, like games and
Okay.
things like that. And there was quite, you know, shout out to Val and Lindsay and those guys, because they were in my group. And so what happens is we're playing these games, and then at the end, there's these tents. And our coaches say you have to pitch the tent and sleep in the tent. And so,
You're like,
okay.
"Ooh."
Meanwhile,
Well, let me jump in because this is great. So a friend of mine owns a house on Elk Lake.
Okay.
And I played college ball with her.
Okay.
Okay. And she gets this huge yard down to the lake, right? So my idea was that the girls would all sleep outside. They would build their own tent, and they would have to sleep outside for the weekend because they're all princesses, right? So they're
Yeah.
going to learn. No cell phones,
Yeah,
right?
no cell
No
phones.
cell
Oh,
phones.
boy.
We took the cell phones away before we left campus. So they have to pitch a tent. What they didn't know was that I had removed a key piece of each tent prior to them getting it. So each group had their own tent that they had to pitch.
and yes, and so not only that, but then
Missing
there's
a big piece.
missing a piece, and
Right.
then like the winners of each.
And
of
no
each-
instructions either, I don't
No,
think.
no
Oh my
instructions.
No
gosh.
instructions.
And
Talk about
and mind
adversity.
you, remember, it's at on the lake, and it's like this.
Yeah, the slope
So
is-
it's like flat ground.
No.
Well, anyway, it's the winner of each games, like the overall winner, got to pick their tents first.
Okay.
And you can tell by the size of which the baggage was, like the size of the tent.
Okay.
So my team lost. And so we got the smallest tent.
Okay.
Well, the piece that was missing was the roof.
One of the bars.
Yes.
That holds the roof.
Yes,
together.
the whole, yes.
Yeah, I mean,
it was like one bar.
Yeah, it was like one bar, but
So it's like
of course I had no
tilted.
idea. I
Yeah.
just randomly was screwing with the tents. I had no idea what I was doing. I don't camp.
So then we pitched our tent, and we we slept in it. Well, there was 4 of us, and it's a small tent. We got the smallest tent. And by the end of it, we started rolling down the hill. We didn't get into the water or anything, but it was like we were like sleeping on top of each other basically because like, but it was so fun. It was one of the best team bondings I've ever had, and we still talk about it. Who were in that group, like, you know, it was one of my friend's birthday, and we were like, you know, team social, like, and that was my freshman year, so back in 2014.
Yeah. I mean, how do you top that?
We would pick a different spot in Michigan.
Okay.
Each, you know, we had gone to the, you know, we'd take them to the dunes.
Okay.
Sing Bear Dunes. We tried to do something that a lot of these kids come from different states had never really understood the beauty of our state. So we would try to go to a different spot each year, and create those kinds of activities where they had to work together, where they had to be off their phones. We were super fortunate for 4 years. We had a gal who was born and raised up north, and her grandparents had just like 8 cabins on a lake. And then we would take consultants with us, and so that was a really nice stretch of time because they were so generous with us. But you know, you set your goals, and then you just plan it out, and you're trying to empower them with most of all the decisions you put on them. So meals, you know, there'd be a group in charge of meals, there'd be a group in charge of leadership things and stuff, all just trying to create that connectedness at the start of the year. So that's the stuff that we had done, and boy, that was the start when COVID hit. It just killed us because we spent 2 years trying to be away from each other.
Yeah.
Okay, everything we did was don't go near each other. Don't touch each other, stay within 6 feet of each other. And yet we were trying to be a team. And people still aren't giving enough credit to these coaches who are keeping it together today because of what they went through with COVID. It was a horrible time, not only for the players, but for the teams. There's a lot of trauma there and a lot of missed opportunity. I feel terrible for those kids that missed that. Even the high school kids. You know, we have college freshmen right now who are really 16 instead of 18. And they are suffering and struggling for no other reason other than they were denied the opportunity to play and fail, to date and break up, to do all of the normal things a high school kid should do. Fast forward, now we just dropped them on a college campus and said, okay,
good luck.
Go ahead. And then we wonder why we're having so many issues right now with this particular couple of years of kids. Well, it's because we robbed them of 2 critical years of high school.
And that goes back to adversity, right? Things you would have never even.
Well, and then going back to even that is now, you know, you drop them in at college, and now their players are still at the schools from COVID years. So now they're competing with more players or
23-year-olds,
fifth years or things like that. And so, you know, it is, you know, a couple years and we'll be done with that COVID stuff, but it is tough. Like that was a big, and the team bonding was like some of my most favorite memories. So
mine too.
The player that she's talking about was my roommate, you know, so I got the opportunity to go up there on not just our bonding trips, and the bonding is the best part. Like that's why you go to school, is for the teammates, for the fun, and then you get to play softball. Like that's so cool.
It's an added bonus.
Yeah.
If I've learned anything from this conversation, besides all the softball talk, I got to see a video of you tripping and falling somewhere. No, I have to. I'm going to need to see one.
It's out there.
I'm going to look it up for sure. And I got to see a picture of your guys' tent.
Oh yeah, I will have to find one, but
I'm sure Val has one.
It's got to be out there somewhere.
I'm sure Val has one.
One of the players was the most dramatic player I have ever coached in my life. Was one of the ones that was in that tent. The most dramatic.
Yeah.
So it was outstanding.
It made for a lot of good stories years to come.
Oh yeah, and that's just things you'll talk about probably until you're 80.
Yes.
You know, just those memories.
Yes.
All right, well, Coach Joseph, thanks so much for joining us today. Kenzie, as
You're
always,
welcome.
it was great. We hope you guys learned something from our little roundtable chat, and you join us again. All right, Kenzie, well, it's time to talk Softball Player of the Year. And from what I hear, we've got a couple more changes on our list.
We do. We're adding Kenna Bomaredo and Kylie Sorkos to our list. Both of them performing really well, and both of them performing in big games.
And how important is it that, you know, this point in the season that these girls that are making our list are performing against these big name schools.
Yeah, I think that's huge. That's something that we really look at is, when you get a basis of 20, 24 games and you go 4 for 4 in one game where you should go 4 for 4, but then you're going 0 for 4 against teams that you should compete a little bit better in. That's what we're looking at, right? Is we want to make sure that you're helping your team win when it matters, and that's when you show up for big games.
And it's these big games that are happening here and now and this season, right?
Yeah, when you're performing, like, it's not about what you did last year. It's not about what you did in travel ball. It's not about where you're going, and that has something to do with it. But I think what happens is we want you to perform right here in this high school season. It's performance in this high school season, defensively, offensively, and as a team. And so those are some criteria, the things that we're looking at. And there's a ton of awesome players.
So many.
And it's hard. Like, it's hard to determine who's, should be on the list, who's on our watch list. But we're soling it based off how you're doing in the here and now.
And we should mention, this list is always changing. Just because you weren't on it one week, you could be added the next week, right?
Yeah, and a lot of that, what that looks like is your performance in those big games, right? Is if you're on the list or if you're on the watch list and then you do an awesome job in a great big game, whether you're a pitcher or an offensive player, like, we take that into account and we're watching all the time.
And we do have a new leader. Megan Nectarline is leading our online vote. To vote for Megan or any of the members of our top 10 list, you can visit statechampsw.com. That's all we've got on this episode. It was a long one. It was a good one. So much knowledge being spread on this episode, right?
Yeah, Coach Jay is awesome, and that's what she does is she uses her voice, and I'm excited for the platform she has now as the assistant AD. Is she's always been one to advocate for women's sports. She's always been one to break the ceiling, break the glass, and she's going to continue to do that for softball. And so if you're a softball fan, if you're a college fan, if you're a high school fan, you're rooting for Coach Jay being in that corner and in your corner, because it's exactly what she's going to do. Is she's going to fight for us, and we're excited, to see what she does now in her new leadership.
Absolutely, and we've got some good weather this weekend, so hopefully we get in some more really competitive softball games. Let's hope those bats stay hot.
Yes, and let's hope those middle infielders turn too.
State Champs Swing Away is presented by Lawrence Technological University. Be curious, make magic, visit ltu.edu. Swing Away is also brought to you by the Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics. The Michigan Army National Guard, a proud sponsor of the MHSAA. The Detroit Athletic Club Foundation Male and Female Athlete of the Year Awards. Who will be this year's award winners? Find out live June 5th only on State Champs Sports Network. Turn Into Softball. Experience Turn Into Softball, where the mission to build champions both on and off the field.